They are not scared of violence. They are not scared of equality. I know it sounds strange, but history proves it. The powerful will tolerate chaos. They will tolerate bloodshed and even tolerate war, as long as the power structure stays the same. But the moment ordinary people stand up demanding justice, real equality, and a shift in who holds power, that's when the fear sets in. Today, I'm going to tell you why peaceful protests scare governments more than riots. Why equality feels like a threat to the powerful, and how we have seen it play out from Nigeria to Burkina Faso, from Rwanda to the West. Stick with me, because this is the side of history they do not want you to know. Now, a quick one before we dive in. Do me a favor, hit that like button, share this video, and please subscribe if you believe in speaking truth. Not just truth, but truth over power. Now, let's go. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Violence often works in favor of those in power. Why? Because it gives them an excuse for more control, for curfews, military crackdown, censorship, and emergency powers. Think about the Nigeria EndSARS in the year 2020. For weeks, peaceful protesters stood united at Lekki Tollgate. The unity, it was powerful. It was impossible to dismiss. But when violence broke out in some areas, suddenly the narrative changed. The story changed. The movement was called dangerous, chaotic, out of control. Can you even imagine that? The real threat wasn't the violence. It was the unity. Now, the same thing happened in the US during the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was feared by the established because he was organized. Now, underline that word, organized. He was organized, he had moral, and it was impossible to paint him as a criminal. But the moment violence happened, whether it was caused by the protesters or not, the focus shifted. It moved away from equality and towards law and order. You want to know why? Stick around. Equality isn't just about treating everyone the same. It means redistributing opportunities, dismantling unjust systems, and giving people access to resources and decision-making power. Did you get that? They have been denied for centuries. Now let's take Burkina Faso, for instance. In the 1980s, Thomas Sankara didn't just preach equality. He lived it. He took lands from the wealthy and gave it to the poor on a platter for free. He made education for girls a national priority. He cut government luxury spending and invested in the people. And what happened? He became a threat. Not just to the foreign powers, but to people in his own country who benefited from inequality. In 1987, to be precise, he was assassinated. Equality forced those at the top to give up the monopoly on power. That's why they fear it more than violence, because once people are truly equal, the old rule no longer works. I like to use Rwanda because it came from ashes. Rwanda is a unique case. After the 1994 genocide, the country could have stayed in a circle of revenge and violence. Instead, its leadership pushed for unity. They erased ethnic labels from identity cards. Women took massive roles in government. The world looked on in shock. But here's the reality why Rwanda's progress is remarkable. Equality must be carefully balanced, because once people realize their power, they often demand more. And that shifts the balance again. So privilege is like a loaded dice. It's tilted so that some people always win. When you level the dice, those who have been winning suddenly feel like they are losing, even though the game is finally fair. That's why movements like Black Lives Matter triggers such backlash in the West. It's not that equality is unfair. It's that it threatens unspoken advantages some have had for generations, right? So this is the part most people don't realize. Peaceful protests are harder for the powerful to fight than violent ones. Do you know that? Violence can be contained, but peaceful resistance, it's public, it's moral, and it exposes injustice in broad daylight. Let's not deviate from the story, right? Back to answers. In Nigeria, or the youth-led uprising in Burkina Faso, when masses stand together peacefully, refusing to be provoked, they strip away the excuses. The world sees the truth. And that's why governments sometimes try to provoke violence, because once they can call you a threat, they can shut you down. If you are still watching, smash that like button and drop a comment with your country's experience of a peaceful resistance. I want to hear your stories, and let's keep this very interesting. Stories like this can only go viral or talked about when we converse about it. So here's the truth. The powerful don't fear riots. They fear that movement because you realize you do not need permission to be free. They fear equality because equality means they can no longer decide your future for you and I. From Nigeria to Burkina Faso, from Rwanda to the West, the lesson is the same. Our strongest weapon is unity, discipline, and the courage to demand what we deserve. If you believe in this message, please like, share, and subscribe, because they can silence one voice, but they cannot silence all of us. I am Letitia Ediri, and here we tell stories unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetic. See you in my next video, guys. Bye.